Okay, we're back with Olaf. The oil pump should be here soon, today I hope, so that I can get started on putting the bottom end back together. One of the things that I want to show you, and you can probably see it for yourself, is all of the pink stuff everywhere, and that is from a failed water pump. And in fact, this engine's upside down, so you can see that the water pump was leaking for some time and dirtied up the inside of that pretty good. So in order to take the water pump off, I have to set the engine at top dead center and remove the pump along with the timing belt. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that off, but that's a terrible design right there, to put a water pump associated, or to run the water pump off the timing belt. Doesn't seem like it was well thought out, because why do you have to remove the whole front end of the car or put it in a service position just to change out a water pump? I don't know. All right, so as far as the rest of the engine, I got to clean the mating surfaces here, as well as the oil pump, the oil pan, which is way back there. All right, let's clean it. All right, there, not too bad. There was no sludge or anything in there, just the gray aluminum metal and a little bit of copper. But I took care of that, cleaned it up. Oil leader works great. Now I've got to take care of the RTV that's left over from the original seal. And I did this one, and I'd like to say that I did a heck of a job on this RTV. This is one of the first oil pans I ever did. And yeah, there's not a lot of excess at all. This is beaded up, yes, but it's on the lip. It's not hanging into the sump, which is awesome. Yeah, instead of the brake cleaner, I'm gonna use a carbon choke because it's stronger, and I believe it'll help get this film off, and then we can reseal it as soon as I get the oil pump. And I have a bunch of these left over from the Porsche rebuild project. If you haven't seen that, be sure to click the pop-up banner above so you can check out my Porsche 911 content. But this is where we're at. I'm gonna clean up the RTV inside, but I'm gonna give it one good wipe with the chem wipes on the top to see if there's any RTV left, and if there is, I'll scrape it off and make it ready. And then I gotta work on the block. I'm hoping this is what I think it is. This could be the solution to the Olaf problem. I'm gonna have to bust this open. And the box came partially damaged, but it looks like it's in good shape. Okay, good. There. All right, this thing is completely reconditioned. Wow. Let me see these. Yeah, see, and this one here, if I remember correctly, I'm looking over there at it. Yeah, this is the one that failed on Olaf as well. And you hear the little bit of play there. But think about it this way. This thing turns at the same rotation, more or less, as the engine. This is a lot of slop, okay? So what I'm gonna do, from what I understand, is just cut this gear off right here. The other thing that's recommended is that I replace, there's an aftermarket sprocket that I can put on here to keep this thing from spinning at all. But really, I don't know, maybe, I think the problem might be, well, if I disconnect that one, then this one will be the only one spinning. This one will be the only one spinning by taking this gear off. But if I take this gear off too, hell, if I just take this one off, it'll delete the whole thing. Yeah, I don't need to do it from here. I need to do it from here. Take it out, cuts off the entire mechanism. We're in business, boys. All right, what you're looking at here is the new oil pump and the fully assembled old oil pump minus the sprocket that I took off here. And this one also has all of the bolt-ons as well. You can see this is the new and improved oil pickup with the backup pickup because these used to get clogged up. That's what happened to the original Olaf engine, is that it had some oil starvation and I had to repair and replace the bearings. I need to take the tensioner assembly off as well, get that off, and then we can start talking about how am I gonna resolve the issue of this one on this one. And this is what I'm talking about. So this is the reverse side of the oil pump. And so you should see something right away that's different, right? And this is why I'm replacing it, is this balance shaft just destroyed this bore and destroyed the bearing that was in there. And it just kept on banging and banging and banging and beating away and turning that aluminum into dust or, paste. And that had to be flushed out of the engine. So if you look at this one here, you hear that, right? There's no lateral movement, but there's movement in and out, right? But I'm gonna eliminate this altogether, and this is how I'm gonna do it. So I'm gonna yank off all of the accessories off of this one, get them out of the way, and then I'm gonna do some practice cuts on the old one before I tackle the new one. All right, we're gonna start with this tensioner. And that is a 10 mil. Probably only about 10 Newton meters, so you don't need to beat it up. You don't want this stuff to be anywhere near your work area when you start grinding away the gears. And there's a tensioner pin that goes right in there along with a piston and a spring that I have off to the side. And I think I'm gonna set all that back up again before I put this back on. I may actually give this thing a whole bath. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give this a bath because it was covered in the grossness that is the aluminum paste. So I'm gonna clean that up as well as the bolts and then the pickup as well. Pickup is an M5 Allen head. It's got a real nice plump O-ring, which I'll remove for now so that I can clean this. And the way I'm gonna clean it is I'm gonna use my ultrasonic cleaner. And if you've seen that on my other videos, you know how awesome that is. It's absolutely perfect for these types of parts that are, a good size, but not too big to not fit in mine. And if you can look closely in there, let me see if I can get closer with my camera. See the sparklies in there? That is aluminum. Yeah, I gotta get that out. Okay, I think I have a plan going forward. I'm gonna have to use my Dremel tool and not my cutoff wheel, but you can see that it fits perfectly between the teeth, and you need to get it all the way down onto the center part and cut through. And I think I'm gonna have to do it in a couple of different places and then use a screwdriver to kind of wedge it open to get it out. I tried using my Milwaukee cutoff wheel, even the small one, and it's still too big. So good thing I tested it on the bad oil pump, because that would have been bad if I would have done that to the other one. I mean, that's cosmetic, but if I wouldn't have caught it early. All right, so I think I have a plan going forward. I'm gonna go ahead and set you up, and we're gonna do it on the production one. Letting my 25-year-old Dremel cool off every now and then, and I'll bring you in now. Yeah, so you can see I'm making good work at cutting that gear. You can hear the grinding noise of the metal in there, so I'm gonna have to give this thing a really good bath. Almost to the shaft, but on the other side, I'm not quite there. So let's see. On the other side, I'm not quite there, but I'm getting there. All right, let's keep going. Chunk off somewhere else. Making progress, making progress. I want to see if I can get a wedge in there. Yeah, that worked. It's starting to disrupt the gearing a little bit. Maybe to the point where I can't get to the other side. I think if I just come up here and do another slice here, it'll open a big enough chunk, and then I can spread it and get it off of the shaft. It's getting there. Almost off the shaft. I got a little bit more grinding to do. I'm gonna let that thing cool off, and the oil pump for that matter. All right, let's see if that did the trick. Just got to get it enough to slip right off. There we go. Okay, that popped off no problem. Now it should just come off. So it looks like I got to do one more spot to get it to come out in 3 pieces, it looks like. Here's the first piece that I took out. That gave me enough room to kind of slide it up and down the shaft, but it won't come out in one big piece. It won't come out in one big piece, so I gotta do more of that. There we go. Okay. So I need to get this guy out. See? Out. And then just kind of walk it and be patient, and then it'll eventually be free. There. Okay, let's get a closer look. All right, so there you go. That's how you delete it. You can see now these will never spin again, and I'm just gonna put them in their lower position just like that. You don't need to worry about any of that. And this is fine, it's just gonna freewheel the whole time. What I need to do, obviously, is clean up all of the metal shavings, and that's gonna take some time, lots of water. I hope Yogi Mama doesn't get mad, but I'm gonna borrow the sink. Let's do it. All right, so one of the key lessons learned that I've learned through building engines is if you didn't put it together yourself, then you trust no one. So what I showed you is the balance shaft component. The actual oil pump is this little guy right here. And it feels like it's binding up on something. It may just be some grit, but I'm gonna take that off and see what's going on in there, because you never trust anybody, especially with an oil pump, right? So let's get this off and figure out what's inside. Luckily, I still have the components from the original oil pump, so I'm not sweating it too much. Well, be extra careful. These are itty bitty bolts. No, it looks fine. The bearing surface looks real good. I needed to take that out anyway, you know, because I'm gonna have to lube it all up. And the lube that I'm gonna use for the oil pump is this, the Driven Assembly Grease. This is for high pressure, and I use this on the oil pump on the Porsche. So if this works on the Porsche, this is gonna work on that. And the idea is this. You squirt a bunch of that lube inside here to create pressure. And what it'll do is it'll create the vacuum pressure that you need, or whatever pressure you wanna call it, to get the oil to start pumping. That's how it works. And you see, what I wanna do is take all of this and clean it. All of this comes apart, but you can see that it's jammed in there. Let me open up the other one and see what it looks like. All right, this here is the one that came out of Olaf, and it seems to be okay. There's the dot and the dot, and that's basically how it goes, like that, okay? So that's this one. Now this one seems to be okay, but it may have some grittiness. Let me clean this one up and see what it does after it's all cleaned up. It's supposed to go in dot to dot, like that. See? And it creates a space during the rotation of the engine. All right, let me clean this up. You don't want any grit in there. That buzzing you hear is the ultrasonic cleaner. Like I said, if you decide you want one, you'd be doing me a great favor if you click the affiliate link down below and got it that way. It helps support the channel, and I know you like me, so that's why you're here. Appreciate it. All right, that's nice and clean. And I'm gonna lube all that up, right? I'm gonna use that assembly grease, get that in there, and make that perfect. And I got myself an acid brush too, which is something else I learned. Just pick this stuff up like that, and then slather it all in there. Basically what you're doing is you want all your dynamic parts to be heavily lubed on first engine start. And yes, this is considered a first engine start, although the engine has already been broken in, but the pump is bone dry for now anyway. All right, so let's go ahead and get this guy in. I'm going to lube up the bearing itself. All right. And the dot faces outward. There's also a key notched out right there so that you can make sure you don't do it wrong. Okay, same thing. And get it in there. And this is going to create more pressure initially than it would if you had nothing in there, because it would take a minute for the oil to reach the pump. I say a minute, you know what I mean. Find the dot, line it up, there, dot to dot, lubed up. That, another dynamic surface right there. You can probably get by with just oil, assembly oil, but let's keep it going. Like that. You want to run all these in, 9 Newton meters, probably 10. Ooh, these are gritty. All right, so I'm going to take these, dunk them in the cleaner. All right, there we go. I'm telling you, ultrasonic cleaner for the win. Time elapsed was about 2 minutes. I went to the bathroom, got a glass of water, and here they are, nice and clean. Yep, and no more grittiness. even pressure. Doesn't really matter, but I'm doing a star pattern. I have it set to 1, so it won't tighten those too far. And let's do the final torque. Okay, 10 Newton meters. All right, sprocket looks good. I'll tell you what doesn't look good though, is the bolt they gave me. This one. I don't know if you can see that, but it's all gnarled up in there. So I'm not going to be reusing this one. I'll use the one that came from Olaf. It's in much better shape. Now I don't need to put this in right now, but I want to check the movement of this gear. The movement of the pump. Oh yeah, look at that. See? So much better. In fact, you can hear the lube creating pressure in there. All right. So I'm gonna take this off again because this right here needs to be done when the chain is installed. So what I'll do, just so that I don't lose the bolt, I'll put it right there. Okay, next up is to get the pickup back on. Here's the pickup right here. I'm not going to be using assembly. I'm going to be using high viscosity lube on most of the rest of the assembly of this engine. Not really all that necessary here. It's going to get tons of oil when it starts flowing. This is to help get it seated so that I don't run into any interference on the way in. Okay. I'm looking around to make sure that I don't see any of the green O-ring showing through. This, believe it or not, that will affect oil pressure if you're getting draw-in from somewhere else other than the pickup. All right. Good. Next up is the tensioner. I believe that's the direction it goes. Yeah, looks right. Just gonna run these bolts in. Now these are M8s, so I believe these are 22 Newton meters. I'll need to check. When I put it in, this was a new tensioner, so I'm not too worried about the rails. Yes, there is some wear on them, on the pads, but it's minor, and I think it was caused by this incident recently. Okay, I was correct. I printed up the assembly guide a long time ago, or not the assembly guide, but the repair manual. And note that this pretty much gives me everything. And this first section right here, this is standard for any torquing. So you can see M6 is 9 to 10, M8 23, 10, and 12 or 40 and 65 Newton meters according to this. And then there's some exceptions for the Audi. So I'm going to go to 23 Newton meters on those M8 bolts. So what you're seeing here, those little red spots are flash rusting. To be expected. Obviously, some of this is not aluminum. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray some WD-40 just over it all to keep it from flash rusting. Okay, so what you're looking at there is almost completely assembled oil pump and balance shaft assembly. So let's get going and install this into Olaf, and then we'll put the engine back in the car after I put everything back in. Let's do it. All right, the oil pump is in. I got it around the tensioner. It's doing just fine where it's at. Fully seated onto the dowels. There's 2 dowels here and here. And the bolts are all, not all, but there are 4 that are the same, 3 that are the same, 1 that's unique, and 1 that's unique. So be sure to get yourself a workshop manual that has that. I'll leave it right here, and you guys can do a screenshot of it, and you can see. Also note that if this was a new engine rebuild, they want you to renew those bolts. I am not going to renew the bolts for reasons, and so I'm just going to tighten them up the way they order you to do, which is 15 Newton meters and then a 90-degree turn after that. So they're stretch bolts. Yes, I know. I'm going to risk it. I'm out of money. So let's do it. I bet you guys thought I forgot to put the sprocket on the oil pump, huh? Well, I kind of did, but hey, I remember now. All right, piece of cake. The idea is to have the tensioner unsprung, right? Or whatever you want to call it, but locked in. And then line up the sprocket and the chain and get it all in place first, and then slip it onto the shaft. There's a keyway here that'll keep it lined up. And that is a torque to yield bolt. So yes, I did. All right, so the last thing I got to do here is put the sump back on the oil pan. But obviously I got to clean all of this oil that dripped out again after I turned the engine over. When I put the Porsche together, I learned that carbon choke is the stronger of the two cleaners to use. And I'm going to clean this up with my chem wipes to make sure that the surface is absolutely perfect. I'm going to dry run the sump, and then I'm going to silicone it with some RTV. Put it on. Let's do it. You want this, you don't want any type of oil interfering with the bonding process. Otherwise, you're going to have a leaky sump. So let's ensure that does not happen. You see, you want this thing to come back clean, not dirty. I'm going to keep doing this until it's super clean. So I've learned many lessons over the few years that I've been running this channel. And one of the most important lessons that I learned is to use your caulking gun to lay down a bead if you had this type of applicator. This is a Mercedes-Benz brand, but it's a Loctite. So I'm going to use it. I mean, if it's good for Mercedes, it's good for Audi. And basically, you want to make sure that the whole area is clean again, but this is the best, right? Because if you try to squeeze this or you get the tube kind, it's a pain in the butt. This is going to be able to let me just go beep, all the way around, following this guide right here. It tells you the bead, what size it should be, about 2 to 3 millimeters, not centimeters. Yeah, approximately 3 millimeters. And just go all the way around on the inside of the bolts. All the way around, and then stick it to the sump. There's one other place that you got to put a couple of beads of this silicone of this RTV before you go and set this down. And I'll show you right now. 2 beads, 1 bead here, and 1 bead right there. And that should seal it up real good. Yeah, so I'm gonna clean this one more time, and then I'll get the RTV going. All right, I've got a 2-pronged attack I need to do here. There's a couple of things. One thing you should notice right away is that pink stuff. That is from the failed water pump that I got from FCP Euro. And it's a good thing I did, because now I already got the replacement. All I gotta do is send this core back and I get my money back, except for the shipping. I really think shipping should be covered if it's a failed part, but whatever. But I need to get the engine into top dead center. And you can see that my timing mark is already passed, so I'm going to have to go around one more time to get it up to here. Right there. I mean, it wanted to go there. And the way you test it is you use your camshaft locking tool, and if this falls in perfectly, then your engine's in time. So that's what I'm going to do, and I'm going to lock this in because I want this to stay in place. So here we go. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. Do not want your camshafts to move, even a little bit. You did notice, I hope, that that was a Schwaben tool and not the OEM. Reason number one is because the OEM is not available. And if you can get it, it's wicked expensive. And this is my second attempt at getting one of these tools. The first tool I got was from an eBay special and it was a disaster. This one from Schwaben, totally worth it. Okay, now that it's in time, I can loosen up this tensioner right here and get everything, and then get the belt off, and then I can clean all that mess up. All right, when I pull this water pump out, I suspect any coolant that's left in the block is going to come out. But let's worry about that in a second. Okay. And there. It's basically a tensioner. I mean, it's not basically, it is a tensioner. There's a washer. Before we do that, let's mark the direction of this timing belt so we know. All right, I don't think the timing belt suffered any permanent damage from the coolant, so that's good. Let's see the damage in this water pump, huh? I'll bring you in a little bit closer. Okay. See if there's anything left in the block. Nope. Looks like most of the coolant came out. Interesting. The only thing wrong with this thing, it looks like, is the O-ring is flat. It's a brand new pump. But there's nothing broken. It feels a little tight, but let me look at the new one. It looks fine. Yeah, I think it's just the O-ring. Are they the same brand? This is a Hepbu. Yeah, they're both Hepbus. All right. Just a flat O-ring. How about that? Just want to make sure there's nothing on that right there. That would keep it from sealing. And I think since it had metal in the oil, you know, I just want to cover my bases. There was no metal in the coolant, but in case that pump did do something, I don't know, I just want to clean it. Okay. Just going to use a little bit of silicone spray. I don't think I have to use any type of lubricant, but you never know. Silicone spray will be harmless to coolant. Yeah, that's gonna work. Okay, we're through the O-ring. Okay. Okay, now that that's torqued in, before I put the timing belt in, I want to clean that up. And like anything in Yogi's garage, I never put things back dirty or like that. So, with the magic of video editing, let's fix this, okay? And there. Much better. I don't have to worry about all that pink stuff leaking out, or I don't have to worry about it making it look ugly. All right, now I got to get the timing belt on. I've got everything loose, so I should just be able to snake it through. But there's a trick to getting this thing tight and getting everything in time. I'll show you that in a sec. All right, now that everything is in place, it's time to tighten it all up. Now I've got this set. You can't tighten this nut all the way up until you get this tensioner set, and then it'll lock into place. So the trick is to turn this eccentric key is what they call that. Turn it until this indicator is above the green mark here. And then do it one more time, tighten it one more time until they're pointed at each other. All right, so I'll show you what I'm talking about. And I'll try not to block your shot. So clockwise until it is above the indicator. There, you see the indicator moving? Like that. All right. Then it says, then release the tension on the belt. So we'll do that. Tension's released. Now tension the tooth belt until the notch and the indicator are aligned. Until they're lined up. Right there. Huh. So like the Porsche, and I think probably the case with a lot of engines, is you want to turn this over twice, right? Because one's the exhaust stroke and one is the combustion or the power stroke. So we want to make sure that that's all set right. So we're going to turn this twice, and the idea is on the last 45 degrees, don't stop. And make sure it lands there, make sure everything else times up, and also check the belt as well. So let's go ahead and do this 2 times. Spark plugs are out, 2 turns. Right there, on the next turn, this is where you don't want to stop. Just keep on going, and it should just pop right there. That's 1. Okay, here we go. Without stopping. Boom, look at that. Everything looks good. Check timing down here. Yep, we're in time. All right, beautiful. Now that we're at top dead center, I can flip this thing over and put the sprocket on. It doesn't need to be in time with the engine, but the instructions say to do that. I'm not sure why, but whatever. I'm just gonna put it all back together, but this is good. This is in time. All right, excellent. So this here is the baffle plate that goes between the transmission and the engine block, and you can see that during the extraction it got damaged. And I had trouble with this in the original extraction reinstallation, so I know the deal. This is going to be a tough son of a gun. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take advantage of my hammer, my fender kit that I've had for a while, and then my anvil here, or the anvil part of my vise, and just see if I can hammer it flat. You know, let's see if I have any luck with that. Let's see. All right, not bad. Just a few whacks with my flat-headed hammer there. I think I've got it pretty straight here. I may have to do a little bit more, but that's satisfactory for now. All right, I'm gonna check that off the list. Right, this may look like good news to you when you see this, but it's not. As expected, the damn baffle in there is all wadded up. So we got to pull this out. I mean, we had it all lined up. Look at that. It would have been perfect. So we got to pull this out, and I'm going to figure out what to do with that baffle. I may just leave it out. I don't know what else to do, but it's not going to interfere with getting this engine in. It doesn't really serve a purpose other than to keep debris out from the flywheel, which is kind of important. But if you're not off-roading and you're not, and your belly pan or your belly cover is on, the chances of stuff getting in there are pretty slim. So it's a decision I'm going to have to make here. Okay, it is the next day. I'm well rested. My back is killing me. But I got to get this done. Believe it or not, looking at this, you're probably thinking, holy crap, I got a lot to do. And you're kind of right, but at the same time, all of the heavy or hard stuff has been handled. But this is what I have left. So I made a long list of things that needed to be done, and I'm on this side of the page. Basically, I need to validate all of the bolts have been torqued, and then worry about all of the accessories and tubing. And then once all that's done, I can move over to the final phase, which is to bring the carrier in. And you can see there's a bunch of stuff involved with carrier, and then the bumper liner, and then engine start procedures. And we'll get to that when that happens. But right now, let's go ahead and knock this out and finish up all of the transmission bolts and torque in the motor mounts and put the CV axles back on and then see where we stand. Let's do it. All right, so I've got most of it wired in. Everything's torqued in, transmission bolts the transmission bolts are torqued in, engine mounts are torqued in. The catalytic converter's good. Wiring harness is back into the ECU chamber over there. So now I just got to get this whole front end reattached. But first I got to get these accessories on and clean this up and get the belt on. So let's do it. Ready? And there. This sucker's ready to go. Coolant's in, oil's in. I'm ready to start this car. Let's do it. I'm so tired. Okay. This is ready. I pulled a fuse, but I need to open the garage just in case it's gonna be smoky.
Yeah.
Noise when I put the key in. It's going to prime the pump, the fuel pump. And it should start. The engine sounded good. So that's the fuel pump. Now, oh yeah. Let me, Hunter, I need eyes on this area, right down there where my finger's pointing. Just in there, and when I start the car, I want you to look for any type of squirting of, that's fuel. So if it starts squirting, let me know and I'll turn you in.
All right. Is it good for me to be like right here?
Well, back up until the engine starts. Here we go.
I don't see anything.
Sounds good, man.
So Yogi, what are we looking for?
I mean, it's running, but it's not running very well. So I'm just trying to figure out what's it choking on. It could just be that it had a bunch of coolant and fluid flushed around when I turned the engine upside down. But it doesn't sound very healthy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my I'm going to use my computer to see what is wrong with it.
All right. So what are we using here?
I'm using this Innova scan tool that was given to me by Innova to test it out. So I'm going to test it out on this Audi. throttle position sensor signal. So from here you can see the check engine and a bunch of things that are throwing warnings. This is for emissions, so this is going to turn green eventually. But the check engine shows P0123 throttle position too high. This fault might pose damage to components and should be repaired as soon as possible. Okay, signal too low. Throttle position sensors signal too high, pending. Angle sensor, so throttle position, fuel pump module control signal. Well, that's from when I pulled the fuel pump. All right, so I'm gonna erase the codes. Okay, that was easy. All right, I'm gonna check the connections.
Where?
Throttle position sensor.
Wasn't even plugged in.
It was plugged in, but not plugged in all the way.
Okay.
There, that should do it. All right, everything else looks good. No fuel leaks. I don't smell fuel. All right, let me give it a go again. Okay, so now that the engine's started, I'm gonna let it run for about a good 15 to 20 minutes to get the oil circulating, and then we're gonna flush the oil out one more time, and then put a fresh filter, and some fresh oil. So, and also at the same time, this is gonna allow us to open the thermostat so that the coolant enters the engine block, and I can top this off, because in a minute, when the engine gets hot enough, the thermostat's gonna open, the coolant's gonna empty from this reservoir, and I'll need to be ready to top it up. Cool. So I like the fact that this tool lets me carry it this far out. It's got a nice long cable. And here's the live data that I'm seeing. So you can see that I'm looking at the coolant temperature at 135. I need to get that up higher so that it will start dumping the coolant out of the reservoir into the engine block, and then I can start adding more in there once it cools off. That little pinging sound you hear, like clink, 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 that is the high pressure fuel pump. It's probably the noisiest thing on this engine. All right, I'm gonna keep an eye on this. It's getting there. Should be opening up any moment now. It's at 149 degrees, almost 150. Yeah, it's starting to go down. So we're at 162 degrees, and you can see the level is dropping a little bit. Right up.
Sticker on it again?
Oh, I didn't. Take it out. Take the engine out.
Oh, yeah. No. Stop all of this.
I don't know if you can see that, but there's glitter in the oil coming out, man. You can just see it dripping down with the oil from the oil filter. That's what I'm draining here, is the oil filter, because I'm flushing the oil one more time, and I'm seeing little metal flakes. So that's just why you need to flush your oil after something like that happens. Whew. Because that shit acts like sandpaper, man. So that's why you want to flush it out. But so maybe we'll change it at 2,500 miles next time. Okay, what you're looking at here is the oil filter that I just took out of Olaf. And then this one here was the initial flush, which maybe had 15 minutes worth of time on the engine. And look, I don't have the original one. That was really dark and gray, but I'll put a picture up in the corner here so you can see the three differences. Dark gray to a little gray to not so gray. Still little bits of metal in there. I don't know if you can see them, but I can. There's one right there. Yeah, so we're making progress. I'm going to get another filter in there, and I think we're only going to run this oil for about 2,500 miles, and then we'll flush it again. So that's good, because we got to keep this engine running. I don't drive it, my son does. All right, now that the disaster is over and I've solved the issue on Olaf one more time, I want to give Olaf a new lease on life. When I first got the car, one of the first things I did was clean these headlights. And I used the UV protection. And that was about almost 3 years ago now. And yeah, it's obviously time again. But this time I'm going to do something different. I'm going to start with this. I'm going to do it differently by using mag aluminum polish from Mother's. I did that on my Porsche. It worked okay, but I did not seal it up. And I bought an assortment of buffer pads. I'm going with the orange one. I don't know what the different colors mean. I'm sure they mean something. Orange is what I use to polish my car's paint when it's got a little bit of micro scratches all over it. So I'm going to go with that color. And some microfiber towels to wipe this off. So I'm going to use some of the Mother's polish on the plastic and do it for a while with the polisher to take a nice layer off here, and then we'll seal it with this 3M clear PPF. I picked it up from Amazon. This was about 30 bucks. This is the one I'm going to use on the Porsche, but I have a smaller sample that's going to work out great right here. And I'm just going to layer just the top. It should be really easy to do. You don't need to be a wrap specialist to make it work. But the first thing we're going to do, obviously, is get that yellow off of that. So let's do that first. Not too hard at all. It took me 40 minutes to do both of them. And it's not great work. I'm not going to get too close because there's, this was my first attempt. And then this was my second attempt. And I think, obviously, my second attempt is better. But, it could be better than that. Like, see, for example, I got to trim that little edge and reset the corner. All right. So that's done. Let's get the bumper liner on, the wheel liners, the belly pan, and get this damn car out of here. All right, guys, you saw, I got it all done, got the headlights done, got the car back on the ground. Get this car out of here again. I think this is it. This is the last time I'm gonna fix this darn car. That was the last piece of the puzzle. Everything else in that engine is relatively new, so I don't expect it to fail again, but it's an Audi, so we'll see. All right, so back to Porsche content next week. Thanks for watching. Thanks again to Innova for sending me over that OBD2 scanner. It works really well on this Audi. I got to see live data on the temperatures, so it works really well. Don't forget to click the affiliate links down below. If you see something you like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Yogi's Garage.